Welcome back to Evening Exchange. I'm Junette Pinckney, sitting in for Kojo Nnamdi. We're talking this evening with Dr. Mary Frances Berry, activist, scholar, longtime worker in the field, in the struggle. And part of that struggle, Dr. Berry, has been with respect to South Africa. If I'm recalling correctly, you were one of the first people who was arrested
at the
that
embassy.
movement, in that demonstration there in November of 84.
Right. Long time ago.
Yes. Do you see parallels between the situation in South Africa and the situation here? Or because the legal barriers have been removed for us, are they completely different struggles?
Well, there are a lot of parallels. The major parallel is the color question, although they have coloreds who they call coloreds to divide them from black folks. But, and they're all coming together. But the major, we have apartheid, American style here. I mean, we have about as much housing segregation as they have in South Africa, about as much ascription on the basis of race. So you see many similarities. Major difference is that they are a majority of the population there, black folks are, whereas we are a minority here. And so what that means is over there what the struggle about now is a way to resolve it without giving them the power and still call it democracy and not have it be one person, one vote. So that question, as one South African government official said to me one time when I was there, they didn't have that problem with you folks in the States, since you were a minority, but we got this other problem. What do we do with them? And when they will get that worked out, then we will have something called political freedom in South Africa, and I don't know when that's going to come.
So you're telling me that, so I don't have to ask you that
Right,
question.
but most of the people any people who are here and people who are in your audience and everybody around D.C. who in fact worked in the anti-apartheid struggle and were up there at the embassy and helped with FSAM, they ought to be really happy about it. And what we have to do now is to do something about the Haitian issue. South African issue isn't over, but if you talk about racism, and it manifests itself in many forms in this country, the Haitian issue to me is clearly an area where you see racism manifesting itself.
And why do you think we're not speaking out about that in the same way we did about South Africa?
Well,
is it that it's too close to our shores?
It's too close, but we need to mobilize, and we're about to get mobilized to do something around this issue. Because when people argue that it's because they're poor and black, and it's Haiti, and it's small, and it's not the powerful place like South Africa from the perspective, the policy perspective of Bush and his people. And they can just dispatch the whole thing and forget about it, and they don't have any powerful people who are supporting them. So we need to help and be more vocal about it. But also anyone who thinks that the refugees who come here before are all political refugees and these people are just economic refugees is just out of their minds. Most people who come here have a mixture of political and economic motives, and we created the mess that is in Haiti now, and to consign people to that is just the most obvious kind of racism. Our policy on immigration and on refugees, if you look at it over the years, has been designed in part not to increase the population of people of African descent in this country. It's been one of the constant strains. There are enough of us here, while refugees from everywhere else can come. So there's racism, pure and simple, that you can see right before your eyes.
I wonder whether we, as African Americans, though, are perhaps somewhat concerned about the Haitians coming. Do we share those attitudes of, oh, it's those poor people from that country that have AIDS who will then come in, take the few jobs that might be available to us, though in truth most of us do not want to wash dishes. Is that part of what's at work here?
Yeah.
Because when the economic times are bad for everyone, they're worse for us.
Yeah, I see that in talking to people about it, in the black community about it. And that's short-sighted, because indeed the issue is not, will the Haitians come or will no refugees come? The issue is every other refugee is coming, yet they can't come. That's what the issue is. So we ought to be opposed to the racism. And we're not talking about no refugees. We're talking about this, no immigrants. We're talking about this particular group of people, and we ought to feel some solidarity with them.
It sounds like we have internalized some of the racist messages that this country has fed us for years and years. And how do we resist doing that?
Well, one of the major problems is the internalizing the master. You know, it's like Malcolm X used to say when the slave master would say, "I'm sick," that the house Negro, as he called him, would say, "Master, we sick, we sick." You know, so you internalize it so much that you think it's you. You can't distinguish between yourself, and so that is a major problem we have. We see it manifest in many ways. People who are trying to distance themselves from being us when they are us. I've seen it in these people writing these books that call themselves, I think, affirmative action babies or
Reflection,
something.
Stephen Carter.
Where they write these books and they say things, what it comes down to in all these different books that have been written in that genre is, yes, affirmative action helped me, and I'm glad it was there and it helped me, and I got a good job, but I wish it would go away and everybody would forget I'm black.
Right.
And that's what it amounts to.
I've come over the bridge, so, you know, I'm over the moat, so pull up the bridge.
Right, and forget I'm black, which nobody is ever going to do. We should remember it because it is going to be remembered. Not see it as a barrier, even though it is, but figure out ways to get around it or get over it.
And how do you think we resist those messages? Because when you talk about publishing, it's clear that in the last 2 to 3 years or so, there's been a spate of these books, Stephen Carter, Jack Lamar, Bourgeois Blues, we could go on.
Shelby
Steele, oh, I was trying to not mention his name, but Shelby Steele's book.
Don't buy his book, but that's people already bought it, I guess, who were going to buy it. But.
Clearly, though, the publishing industry has also said, aha, this is a message that's working right now. It's selling books. It's hot. How do we resist taking in that
Well,
message?
the part that's so interesting is the folks who wrote those books, I'm sure, didn't write them for African Americans, but many African Americans read them and were comforted by having not to deal with their blackness by trying to deal with them. And the publishing industry right now has decided that they went too far, which is why they're publishing these books about race, books like Andrew Hacker's book and books like Studs Terkel and all the rest. And you'll probably begin to see books like that written by African Americans.
I was going to say, isn't it interesting that those books about race that are getting the most attention right now are written by white people, liberal white people, or, you know, somewhat progressive white people, but those other books were written by us.
That's right. And now I think what you're probably going to see is a few books like that written by black folks that the publishers will start. Many of them have told me that they thought they went too far in the other direction, and one might call it guilt. What I'd like to see, and I think that we need to study more the history of how we have responded to racism in the past, which can inform us about what we must do now. And there are many things we can do.
Talk some about the specific ways we've responded, because this racism is nothing new.
Right.
It is, as Hakeem Madhubuti says, a growth industry. What have we done before, and what might we take from that?
Before, we all know about W.E.B. and Booker T. And before, we've had one poll talking about self-help and solidarity within the community. And we've also had people who said, let's be militant about policy and let's make demands outside the community. But in most of those people, there has been more than one strand. While W.B. talked about a militant stance, he also talked about solidarity and respecting yourself within the community and organizing within the community and getting yourselves together.
He was also working with white people in the Niagara movement, which led to the NAACP.
Which in working in coalition. So all of these things he saw. Booker T. Washington even, who is misunderstood by a lot of people. I'm on the board of Tuskegee, so I can say he's misunderstood by a lot of people. Although he believed in institution building, and said a lot of things to white folks to get money to help build the institution. In fact, behind the scenes, he financed litigation to protect people's civil rights and said, don't tell anybody I'm doing this, because then they won't give any money to Tuskegee. Because he understood that you had to do more than one thing at a time. And in our history, there are lots of people whose names people would never know. There was a woman who started something called the Ex-Slave Pension and Bounty Movement. Her name was Callie House, and she was from Tennessee, to try to get reparations for us right after the Civil War. And she set up an organization to do it. Got a bill introduced into Congress even to do it. People talking about getting a bill to do it today. And they ended up putting her in jail. They decided that the feds decided she was crazy, because anybody who thought they'd give reparations to us had to be crazy. So she was ipso facto out of her mind. So when we think of ideas about things to do, people have done them before, and each one brings a sort of pressure to bear in some one corner in responding to our problem. But the lesson I see in all of it is that we need to do a mixture of things. Whenever we get into debates about our condition, for the last few years it's been, do we have self-help or do we have government help? Or do we do this? No, no, no. Usually what we need to do is to think about all of these different things, and they each serve a different purpose, and they're all part of our history. Some people think, for example, that black conservatives are a new phenomenon. People still think that.
George
We've
Schuyler
had those, throughout our history too, playing a role, and they seem to surface in times when they're needed by those who need them to be needed. So that too is not anything that's any different. It's all trying, we have to see it as trying to respond to the racism that has been a part of our life, and the subordination that has been with us constantly, and just doing it in a lot of different ways.
Well, you're talking about a multi-pronged approach. I wonder whether at some point it becomes necessary to kind of narrow the field so that, for example, we begin to think, should we spend time, and energy and resources going after reparations, which we clearly are due, but which it's also pretty clear would be way down the road if this government would ever give in. So do we narrow the field at some point and say we're going to go in these couple of directions?
Well, at different times we may use different strategies, but the whole reparations thing, ultimately, all that is about leverage, whether it succeeds or fails. And a lot of things can give you leverage even if they don't work.
And the leverage to do what?
The leverage to demand other kinds of policy approaches or financing for things like education and other things in our community. So it's, you know, it can be used for that purpose. And it's not immoral. Mm-hmm. When you can ask for something that has some moral force to it, and the idea of some form of reparations is not a crazy idea. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with at least proposing it.
But your comment seems to assume that this government, this country, is in fact guided by morality, when our history's shown us that that is not so.
The country is not, but we should be. We should behave according to understanding the validity of our claim and the validity that is reinforced by our history, as long as we make moral demands. The demands may not be responded to, but this doesn't mean that we can't make them.
And before we go to our viewers and talk with them, I want to ask you if you're able to kind of give us some specifics, put you on the spot a little bit, in terms of how we can work around racism. You've said you think it's going to continue indefinitely. What can we do as individuals who go out our door every day and face it to not be beat down by it and to succeed in spite of it?
Find ways around it. I mean, everybody knows that if you want to rent an apartment somewhere, people are going to tell you they don't have one in certain neighborhoods. Send somebody else. Find yourself a white person and send them to get it. And if you want a cab, send a white person out to get it. Keep
what, you're going to start a company called Rent a White Person?
Have a Rent a White Person, like they used to do to tell the joke about it in the South, and this was really true, where if you wanted to go to the movie, you would take a white baby and pretend like you were taking the baby to the movie. Get one of your white chums to go and rent this apartment for you, do things. Watch, be careful what you do and where you go, and also assume that people may be negative to you for that reason, and even if they are, that you're just going to keep on doing whatever it is you're trying to do because you have a right to do it, okay? But don't do stupid, crazy things that'll get you into trouble. And don't go all around all the time thinking about it so that you are unwilling to move when you should move because you're worried about what somebody might do. Just go ahead and behave as if it doesn't exist. Its existence is wrong. You're not wrong to be where you are, and act that way.
But you said that you tell your nephew, son, be careful. Don't talk back to that white cop. Don't tell him, you know, you have no right to be saying this to me. Because the reality is that in exercising his right, he may be beat or worse.
That's right. So you be careful about what you do. That doesn't mean he shouldn't go where he needs to go. Mm-hmm. He just needs to watch himself while he's going, not stay at home or decide he's not going someplace. We just have to be careful. I came out of a hotel the other day in a major American city where I was given a commencement address and went to get in a taxi to go give the commencement address. And there were people standing there waiting for cabs to go to the same commencement. And the cab driver told me to get out of his cab because he didn't want any people like me, niggas, in his cab. And the people who were standing there had their mouths wide open.
Tell us quickly what you did.
What I did was I said, you know, I'll take down the number from your license and I will report you. And then I calmly got out of the cab, and the people all said to me, what did he say to you? Wow. I said, well, you heard, he said he didn't want any niggers. And they were sitting, and it was a lesson for them. All these people who go around denying all the time that there's no racism or whatever, and they saw it right before their eyes. And in a way, there was a sort of irony. Aside from reporting him, I went and got another cab. They had to come to the commencement to watch me get up and speak.
We're out of time, but I've got to ask you,
that.
Why didn't you stay in that cab and just refuse to get out?
Because I didn't want to get in a fight with him and have someone say that I was the person who was in the wrong, and I could just as easily report him and follow up on that, and that's why I didn't.
Okay. We're going to pause for a moment, and when we come back, it'll be your chance to get into the discussion with Dr. Mary Frances Berry. Back in a moment.